The hospital hallway flickered under cold fluorescent lights as nurses rushed past, their shoes tapping like distant echoes. Michael pushed his cleaning cart slowly, exhaustion weighing on his shoulders like a silent companion. He stopped when he noticed a woman, sitting alone on a bench, trembling as tears slipped through her fingers. People walked past without seeing her, but Michael's step softened as he approached gently. Drawn by pure instinct, he knelt beside her and whispered, "Are you okay?" And for a moment, her broken world collided with his. She tried to wipe her tears quickly, embarrassed to be falling apart in front of a stranger. But her hands shook too much to hide the weight she carried. Michael didn't overwhelm her with questions. He simply sat beside her, giving her the dignity of silence. The hallway around them buzzed with urgency, but here, between the two of them, everything softened, as if the noise of the world faded for a moment to let her breathe. She took a small, trembling breath before whispering, "I lost someone today, someone I couldn't save." Her voice cracked, and her eyes drifted toward the floor as if afraid to meet the truth. Michael listened the way people do when they understand pain too well. "Hospitals break everyone," he murmured softly, "even the strongest people." She swallowed, surprised that someone who looked as exhausted as he did still spoke with such gentleness. "Doctors aren't supposed to break," she whispered. "But I did, and I can't stop replaying it." Her shoulders trembled again. Michael looked down at his hands, the memory of every long night he'd spent in this building echoing through him. "Not being able to save someone doesn't mean you didn't try," he said quietly. "It means you cared enough for it to hurt." She looked at him for the first time, really looked, and something inside her shifted. She wasn't seeing a janitor anymore. She was seeing a man who carried his own storms with a quiet strength she hadn't expected. His uniform was worn, his eyes tired, but the kindness in them felt like the first warm thing she'd felt all day. "Why are you being so kind?" she asked softly. "You don't even know me." Michael took a breath, and for a moment, pain flickered behind his calm expression. "Pain recognizes pain," he whispered, "and sometimes kindness is all we have left to offer." The words settled between them like a fragile hand placed over a wound, gentle, steady. Exactly what she needed. She wiped her face again, this time slower, less frantic. Michael watched her carefully, giving her space, but staying close enough to show he wasn't going anywhere. "I'm sorry," she murmured, trying to compose herself. "You must think I'm falling apart." He shook his head. "Falling apart doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." A small, broken laugh escaped her, the kind that trembles but carries truth. She leaned back against the wall, breathing a little deeper now. "What about you?" she asked. "What brings you here so late?" His expression softened instantly, and he looked toward the pediatric wing with the heaviness she felt in her chest. "My daughter," he whispered. "She's been sick for a long time. They still don't know what's wrong." Her heart tightened as she followed his gaze. "How old is she?" "7, he said. "Braver than I'll ever be." The way he said it, with pride, fear, and love tangled together, made her throat ache. She placed a gentle hand over her heart. "You've been going through all of this alone." He nodded slowly. "Just me." She looked at him with eyes filled not with pity, but with deep, aching empathy. "You're stronger than you think," she whispered. He smiled softly, the kind of smile worn by people fighting battles they never talk about. "Some days, I just hold on." For the first time since her morning, she felt her own heart steadying, warmed by the presence of a man who had nothing, yet somehow still offered everything. Michael remained seated beside the woman for a while. As the hallway returned to its usual rhythm of muffled footsteps and distant monitors, she finally took a long, steady breath and stood, wiping the last traces of tears from her eyes. "I want to see her," she whispered, almost surprising herself. Michael blinked, unsure he had heard her correctly. "See who?" he asked gently. "Your daughter," she said. If you'll let me." There was something in her gaze, determination rising from ashes, a purpose rediscovered in the middle of heartbreak. Michael hesitated for a moment, not out of fear, but out of disbelief that someone who had broken moments earlier now wanted to help. But there was something trustworthy in her posture, something calm beneath the remnants of her pain. So he nodded softly. "Follow me." They walked through the quiet wing of the pediatric floor, where the walls were painted with cheerful animals and bright colors designed to hide the sorrow that lived inside so many rooms. As they approached Lily's door, Michael paused, placing his hand gently on the frame as if asking permission from the universe to let someone else into their fragile world. Lily was awake, sitting up in her bed with a soft blanket wrapped around her small shoulders. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw her father. "Daddy," she whispered, and Michael's entire expression melted. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Someone wants to meet you." The woman stepped inside slowly, her voice softened by tenderness. "Hi, Lily," she murmured. "I'm Elena." Lily looked up at her with shy curiosity, her small hands folded together. "Are you a nurse?" she asked. Elena smiled gently. "Not exactly, but I help people feel better." Lily nodded, trusting the warmth in her voice. Elena approached the bed cautiously, observing the subtle tremor in Lily's fingers, the slight imbalance in her posture as she shifted, the quiet which she tried to hide. Every detail told a story, and Elena's mind instinctively began piecing them together with renewed clarity. Michael watched from the corner, noticing the way Elena's demeanor changed entirely. The broken woman from earlier was gone. In her place stood someone focused, collected, almost fierce in her concentration. Elena checked Lily's pulse, spoke softly with her, asked questions in a way that didn't overwhelm her. She noticed patterns, the kind only a trained specialist would recognize. When she finished, she gently brushed her hand over Lily's blanket and stepped aside, signaling Michael to follow her outside. Once the door closed, her composure wavered just slightly, but not with fear, with urgency. "Michael," she began, her voice steady but filled with gravity. "Her symptoms aren't random. They're connected." His breath caught. "Connected how?" Elena took a slow breath, choosing her words carefully. "I've seen this before, not often, but enough to recognize the pattern. The tremors, the headaches, the light sensitivity, the motor delays. This isn't just an infection or inflammation, it's deeper." Michael felt the ground tilt beneath him. "Is it?" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Serious?" Elena nodded gently. "Yes, but not hopeless. Not at all." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Michael, I haven't been honest with you." His heart froze, fear draining the color from his face. Elena held up her hand quickly. "Not about your daughter. About me." She took a breath. "I'm not just a doctor." Her voice steadied. "I'm a neurosurgeon, one of the lead surgeons in this hospital." Michael stared at her, stunned, the truth crashing into him with overwhelming force. She continued, "When I said I lost someone today, it was a difficult case, complicated. I thought I had failed." She closed her eyes for a moment. "But your kindness grounded me. It reminded me of why I became a surgeon in the first place." When she opened her eyes again, they held a fire he hadn't seen in her before. "If you trust me, I can help her." Michael's breath trembled. "Help her how?" Elena softened her voice, though the urgency remained. "She needs a specialized scan, one that can reveal neurological pressure or structural complications that regular exams can miss." She placed her hand over her heart. "Michael, I think I might know what's wrong. And if I'm right, she can be treated." His vision blurred with sudden hope, tears forming before he could stop them. Elena took his hands gently. "Let me do this," she whispered. "Let me try." And in that moment, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a small, glowing spark of faith. The morning light crept slowly through the hospital windows, casting a pale glow across the hallway as Michael paced back and forth, unable to sit still. Every step felt like a prayer, every breath a silent plea. Nurses passed by with soft smiles of reassurance, but nothing eased the tight ache in his chest. Behind the surgical doors, his entire world lay asleep under bright lights. Trusting the hands of the woman he had comforted only hours earlier, he stopped for a moment, pressing his forehead against the cool wall, whispering a trembling promise. "Daddy's right here. Baby, I'm not going anywhere." Inside the operating room, Elena stood beside the table, her eyes steady behind the surgical mask. She looked down at Lily, so small, so fragile, and allowed herself one quiet breath to center her heart. Her team watched her carefully. They knew her reputation, the precision she carried, the calm that settled the room whenever she took charge. But today was different. Today, something deeper fueled her, something human, something personal. She whispered softly, just for Lily to hear even though the child was under anesthesia, "You're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." And then, with the sharp clarity of purpose, she began. Every movement of her hands was calculated, delicate, guided by years of experience and a renewed sense of responsibility. The room filled with the subtle beeping of monitors, the steady rhythm of breathing machines, the quiet murmurs of her team. As she navigated the intricate pathways of Lily's brain, she found exactly what she feared, a small, hidden structural flaw causing dangerous pressure buildup. It was rare, nearly impossible to detect without the right eye. But she saw it, the same way she had seen the pain in Michael, the same way he had seen her humanity before knowing who she was. Meanwhile, outside, Michael sat with his face buried in his hands, struggling to breathe through the uncertainty. Hours passed in slow motion. At moments, he paced. At others, he sat completely still, staring at the floor as though the answers were hidden in the tiles. Every time the surgical door swung open for someone else, his heart jumped violently. He whispered Lily's name under his breath again and again, as if keeping her alive through the rhythm of his voice. His entire world, every hope, every dream, every reason, lay on the other side of those doors. Inside, Eleanor reached the most critical part of the surgery. Her hands remained steady, but her heart pounded with the weight of every choice. She carefully relieved the pressure, restoring the delicate balance within Lily's brain. The room was silent except for the clinical sounds of life being preserved. And then, a moment of stillness, a breath, a final check, and Eleanor exhaled softly behind her mask. "We've got her," she whispered. Her team nodded, relief washing through them like warmth after a storm. She closed the final sutures with gentle precision, knowing the hardest part was behind them. When she stepped out of the operating room, the exhaustion hit her all at once, a mix of relief, gratitude, and emotional unraveling. She pulled off her mask and cap, letting out a shaky sigh before searching for Michael. He stood the moment he saw her, eyes wide and filled with fear. She approached slowly, her expression softening into something he had never seen, the pure tenderness of victory. "Michael," she said gently, her voice cracking under the weight of everything. He stepped closer, breath trembling. "Please, just tell me." Eleanor smiled, a tired, emotional smile that carried the weight of every second she fought for his daughter. "She made it," she said softly. "The surgery was a success." The words broke him open. His knees weakened, and he pressed a hand against the wall as tears poured freely down his face. Eleanor stepped forward, placing a steady hand over his shoulder. "She's going to be okay," she whispered. "She's strong, and she fought hard." Michael covered his mouth, struggling to breathe through the overwhelming relief. "Thank you," he whispered between sobs. "Thank you, thank you." For a long moment, they stood in the hallway. The janitor who carried the weight of the world, and the surgeon who had stitched hope back into it. Eleanor's own eyes shimmered with emotion. "You saved me too," she whispered. Hours later, Michael sat beside Lily's bed as she woke up slowly, her eyes fluttering open to the soft light. "Daddy," she whispered. Michael leaned forward, tears still on his cheeks. "I'm right here. Baby, you're safe." Lily smiled weakly. "My head doesn't hurt anymore." He pressed his forehead to hers, overwhelmed by gratitude and love. Standing quietly in the doorway, Eleanor watched them with a full heart, knowing she had been exactly where she needed to be. Michael looked up, meeting her eyes with a depth of gratitude words could never carry. "You saved my little girl," he whispered. Eleanor shook her head softly, her voice tender. "You saved me first." And in that quiet room, filled with beeping monitors and fragile hope, the strangers discovered that sometimes the people we comfort become the very people who save us.